Welcome to another DragonLance Saga review episode. It is Bakukal Fierce Wealth the 22nd. My name is Adam, and today I'm going to give you my spoiler-filled review of The Broken Sphere by Nigel Findley. Now, this is the 5th out of 6 in the Cloakmaster Cycle of the Spelljammer series of novels. There's only 6 ever written of all Spelljammer novels, and again, I've already read the other 4 and reviewed them all, so why not continue? Only got a couple left, and boy am I glad that I did. Because if there's only 2 Spelljammer books you ever read in your entire life, read Beyond the Moons. Is it Beyond or Into the Moon? I think it's Beyond the Moons. Anyway, it's the first one. And this one so far. Maybe the last one too, but I haven't read that yet, so I can't say. This was an amazing story that really presented some wonderful sci-fi ideas that up until now have, if you're a sci-fi fan, then and I'm going to get into specifically what I'm talking about a little bit later, the ideas that are presented in this are not new, but they are always interesting. But if you're just like a fantasy fan reading sci-fi for the first time, these may be like shockingly interesting ideas. And so, if you like murder mysteries too, that's really what's wrapped up into the sort of the B story of this entire this series in general, but this specific novel. Anyway, it's really great. It's Friday. I've had a hell of a week, and I'm glad that I've got a long week ahead of me. So, Slange. Chris, good to see you. Marco, welcome from Italy. How's the weather over there? Because it is scorching over here. Scorching. Okay, so again, I will be spoiling this story. So if you want to read this in your own time, come back. Read it. Please read this novel because it is really good. Especially, it's hard to rate a novel on its own when it's in a series. You know what I mean? So when we refer to like Dragonlance novels, we always compare them to the Chronicles and the Legends. You can't help it. It's a Dragonlance novel. What is it? Was it as good as the Chronicles and Legends? That's just how it works, right? So when trying to give some sort of a review for this particular novel, I have to temper my expectation and my surprise with the other novels in this series that I've read already. And it's really great because it delves more into Teldin Moore from Krynn. He's an Ancelonian. I don't know. He's from like the south of Calaman. So I don't know what you would call that as like a regional human reference. But anyway, he's from Krynn. And he's met a Kender that he wasn't even sure that he really liked, but in reflection in some of the passages of this book, he realizes that, yeah, there could have been something really special there between him and this female Kender, which is really cool because I've never thought, I mean, I've never given it much thought in my life anyway, but the idea of being a human and then meeting another race, not ethnicity, but another actual different race like a Kender, and then finding yourself attracted to them and then trying to sort of navigate those feelings in this weird space environment. Like, it's one thing to, be an elf and fall in love with a human. They're pretty close as far as, visual cues. I mean, you got the whole age thing, which is a massive problem, but we deal with that in Dragonlance a lot. There's a lot closer of an age lifespan, we'll say, between Kender and human. But Kender look like kids. Like wrinkly old kids, but they look like kids. I don't know about you, but that's not my deal. That's not my bag. And so it's weird that a main character would then fall in love with this Kender, not because it looks like a kid, but because, it's an individual and he falls in love with the personality of this individual. And then the fact that this Kender female also fell in love with him, but because they're from these different places in their lives, because they got so much going on in their lives, they never explore it and they never even communicate it to each other. But there's these brief little glimpses that Teldin has at the beginning of this novel where he's reflecting back on this girl that he abandoned 2 novels back. That I thought was really beautiful. But anyway, that's really the strength of this novel, is that not only is it better than the other novels that preceded it, written much better. Nigel Findley is fantastic compared to the other novelists that handled this property. But he does enough callbacks that you feel like this is an interconnected story. You know, a lot of the other novels retread the same old ground, and arguably this one does too, to some extent. And I'll get, again, into those details here in a second. I'm just trying to articulate why I found this so particularly good. But the events in this novel and the way that the events unfold and they're sort of revealed to the audience through Teldin's eyes are on par with every great murder mystery. Like, genuinely, like Agatha Christie type stuff. I mean, just really good stuff. And the concepts, the sci-fi concepts that are introduced are just enough to whet your appetite without drowning you, in confusion. I mean, really good stuff. All right. So anyway, I couldn't put this down. I finished it in a couple days because it was just that good. Anyway, you got to read it if you haven't already. So if you don't want to be spoiled, it's okay. Turn this channel. Go watch something else. Go watch the new trailer for the Dungeons & Dragons film. Go read the article that Chris mentions in the chat here about why Margaret Weiss left TSR. Don't watch this if you're going to read it, because it's worth discovering on your own, honestly. But if you have read it, if you don't really care about spoilers and you want to sit with me, let's just hang out for a Friday and just talk about a great novel together. So that's what we're going to do. All right. So the way these reviews work, hell of a preamble I just gave you. The way these reviews work is as I'm reading it, I'm taking notes, and then I write little synopsis every couple, sections or chapters or whatever. And then I just sort of read that synopsis to you filled with my own commentary. And then afterward, or throughout the course, you comment on it, or you bring your own thoughts to the table in the live chat if you're catching this live. And I'll refer to those at the very tail end, and we'll just sort of chat for a little bit. It'll be a good time, and I hope you'll join us. So let's dive into this, shall we? Teldin Moore is alone. The Elf Legions gave him a line of credit, so he bought a single-person Spelljammer and traveled to the planet Crescent in Heartspace. There's a great archive there that he's wanting to do some searching for information about the mystical Spelljammer and the Broken Sphere, which is supposed to be the center of all life in the universe. There he meets an elf named Djan Alantri, who is a child of the Path, and this is a religious organization on this particular planet. Djan saves Teldin from would-be assassin thugs. They agree to meet for wine after Teldin visits the library, where he collects a whole bunch of information from the Gnome-run library and meets Djan for a drink afterward. He decides to change ships and hire a crew, inviting Djan on board. They buy a new squid ship and hire a crew, only to discover that someone is sending mercenaries after Teldin. Now, it's not much of a shock, because every novel thus far has presented a new type of group or creature that wants the cloak that Teldin has around his neck. And so for him to be surprised that suddenly there's new mercenaries after him is ridiculous. Like, there's no way he would ever be shocked. Like, of course, like, he has the Neogi after him. He's got the Illithids after him. He's got originally the elves were after him. The Skrull are after him. Let's see. Beholders briefly were after him for a little bit. And anyone else who happens to want the cloak or the Spelljammer is like literally hunting him down, trying to kill him to take it from his dead body. So why he's ever shocked is beyond me, but we find out he is yet again. So anyway, he then discovers Julia from the second book. Julia was part of the Spelljammer, the Probe, that he came on as a deckhand, and it sort of opened, it was like the second novel. And so it really opened up not only the world, the universe, the phlogiston, and all the different crystal spheres of the Spelljammer universe, but also it was the first time he visited Forgotten Realms. And so, meeting her, I was always frustrated in that second book because it led on that they had romantic affections with each other. And again, Teldin's set up as like a Captain Kirk type character. He always gets the girl, and then they sort of break up, or the girl sort of turns on him in some way. And so he's always left alone for the next book to find a new girl. That's sort of the pattern that Spelljammer is presented in these novels. But to have this girl return And I was frustrated in the book because it seemed like they should have hooked up, but they never did. It was really frustrating. And so when she comes in here, it's totally referring to all those feelings that he had that I picked up on through the writing of that novel, but it picks it up as if there's huge distance of, time and space, literally, between them. And it was just nice and refreshing because I was like, yes, finally, we're getting back to that one relationship that I thought was going somewhere that ended up not going anywhere at all, which is kind of frustrating, but now we get to fulfill that itch. So I dug it a lot. So anyway, he then discovers Julia from the second book, and she's looking for him with this heroic-looking man named Beth Abs. Not abs as in stomach abs, but might as well be for the character type. So Teldin gets warning imagery from his cloak when looking at Beth Abs, and it shows him this open maw of a mouth with all these sharp teeth, and then he gets this sense of dread looking at this guy. And you would think at this point in this entire trilogy, what is it called? The second to the last book. There's a name for it. I can't think of it right now. It's a P word. So he should listen to his cloak by now. When he gets warning signs from his cloak, he should be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm going to pay attention. But throughout the whole first half of this book, he's getting these warnings and notations from his cloak. And he's just like, oh, well, and walks off. What are you doing? Are you insane, man? All right. Anyway, little things like that bug me. Okay, so he gets these warnings, but he ignores them. He then listens to the incredibly confident Julia about how she finds Teldin and how it's not mysterious and she's not stalking him at all. And, Teldin finds this completely sincere and he's like, okay, I buy it. Which again, doesn't make any sense at all. This girl abandoned the probe when you were having romantic feelings for her, and now when the entire galaxy, the universe supposedly is looking for him to try to kill him and take his cloak, she suddenly shows up with this other guy that is giving you bad vibes and open mouth with massive teeth. I would probably not trust her a little bit more than Teldin does. But again, it's a book. What are you going to do? So anyway, she presents this idea that Teldin is actually someone who sort of shapes reality and destiny because of the significance of him being the Cloakmaster. And that's why she feels like she's always being drawn back to him. And thus far, she has ignored that draw, and now she's just going to give in to it because she's been fighting it, and she always keeps ending up right next to him. And he's like, awesome. Okay, I believe you now. And that was it. So anyway, they're hired on as deckhands. She's his first mate, or second mate. And then they leave with Teldin wondering who sent... I don't think I wrote this. I thought I reread this, but I clearly did not. Anyway, so they all hire on as deckhands and then they ship off. Once they're outside of the current crystal sphere that they're in, the heart sphere, they're immediately attacked. You know what? I'm jumping ahead of myself. I'm sorry, guys. I'm butchering this really quick. Just bear with me. So anyway, right before they take off, Teldin is on his way to the harbor master in order to get the credentials in order to legally lift off this planet. And these Neogi Death Spider Spelljammers are coming down out of atmosphere, attacking the local police Spelljammers. And Neogi Death Spiders are the first threat that we're trying to find Teldin and kill him. And so he sees this massive space battle that everyone's freaking out. He's like, screw the legal side of this. We're getting off planet now. So he hightails it back to the Spelljammer, gets on. He's like, take off right now. I don't care about the laws. We're going to skirt we're just sort of hover over the sea until we can get out of atmosphere, make sure we don't get caught by those death spiders. So he's got a lot of weird stuff happening. They successfully evade the Neogi and they're headed out to the edge of the Heartspace sphere. And then we cut over to this guy named Captain Berglund, who was hired by some unknown person that knew exactly when and where Teldin would bring his ship out of the crystal sphere. And his name of his new ship is called the Boundless Possibilities. It's referred to as Boundless throughout the course of this novel. So the ship itself was sabotaged by someone. So that thus begins the mystery of who's the saboteur on board. So this pirate's waiting for them, knows that they're going to be sabotaged so they can't fire back. And so as soon as the Boundless comes out of the crystal sphere, he goes in and he attacks it with the hope of being able to capture Teldin and deliver Teldin to his benefactor, whomever, put out the bounty on this guy. Teldin was stunned, but on his way through wild space, he confronted Beth Abs, I think is the name, or Az. Now I'm getting mixed up. Anyway, he confronts the guy, the big tough guy that he was getting these weird warnings about. He's like, look, drop the act. You're clearly shape-shifting. Show us your original shape. The dude shifts to a beholder, like this massive beholder. And like the girl that was with him, Julia, she had no idea he was a beholder the whole time. It turns out that Beth Abs is just a good guy, just a good beholder. He's an individual who doesn't want to cling to the herd mentality of the rest of the beholder tribe that he was raised in. And so he was shunned and an outcast because of it. And so he hires on. He's like, look, I don't want to fool people, but people freak out because I am who I am. And, I just want to travel space. That's what he wants to do. And so turns out he's just a good dude. And Teldin's like, look, if you're going to be on my ship, you have to reveal who you are. No hiding, no secrets. We're 100% honest on this ship. So let the crew know, and we will move forward in a positive way. Anyway, because of the saboteur on board, they disabled all of their weapon systems in order to fight off this pirate invasion, but they got a beholder. So the beholder just decimates this pirate ship. And this pirate ship apparently had like an escape pod or escape ship in it. And so he tries to like abandon all of his crew members to save his own life. And the beholder goes and gets him too. It was the greatest scene ever. Just this rampaging beholder with all these different stalk eyes shooting different magical beams, messing everyone up. And Teldin is just like, that's awesome. Just sitting back, just, like, oh, all right, that's how you do it. Good job, Beth. And it's just kind of funny that there's a beholder named Beth. I don't know. And it's a guy, like a male named Beth. It reminded me of a boy named Sue, Johnny Cash. Okay, so Teldin made him show the crew who he really was, the beholder. And now Beth and Teldin's only defense against the Dolphin battleship pirates is Beth. But he's more than enough. They decimate the pirates and capture them, demanding to know who hired them and why. All Captain Berglund knew was that he was supposed to abduct Teldin, keep him unconscious, and deliver him to the Illithid homeworld. So now he's thinking, well, they have no connection with the Neogi that just invaded, but we'd also know that the Illithids want Teldin, and so that makes perfect sense that they would be the ones to hire him. Knowing that there's a saboteur on board, but not wanting to spook them, they keep their eyes open and release the pirates to the broken ship. They continue on to the planet of Nex, which is the original plan, the information he got from the library. Now, this is not on the star charts, but it wasn't noted in the library, so Teldin is confident that it will be there when they get there. So they get to this sphere to find out that it's actually a really, really small crystal sphere, much smaller than any they've ever been to thus far or seen. They enter it, and the entire inside is completely pitch black. There's no stars. There's no anything. So Teldin consults his, like the planet surrounding. He discovers that there's like this gaseous world that's on the outside, like near the outer edge of the sphere itself. And at the center of the sphere is this sort of space dust. What they find out by delving into the space dust is that inside the space dust is the planet Nex that he's looking for. And it's being sort of circled by many, many miniature suns, which is very, very strange. So they start to approach, they map their way only to find that the sun... So they map their way in order to find a pathway to get down to the planet through all of the suns that are circling this at a really incredible rate. They start through that path only to find out that one of the suns is trailing them, trying to like attack them or like slam into them, thereby destroying the ship. Only with the help of the ultimate helm, which is the cloak, and Teldin using it, are they allowed to push the ship faster than it's supposed to be able to go, evade the sun that's trying to attack them, get into the atmosphere of the planet Nex. But then all of a sudden, the planet, or something on the planet, starts shooting these magical blasts back up at them, hits them, and they do this massive crash course down to the ground. Again, Teldin's knocked out. He comes to as they're still falling down to planet side, and he realizes he has to use the ultimate helm to try to mitigate the crash, but no matter what, they're going to crash. So he does everything he can. They finally crash without killing anyone. The ship is broken, and they're stranded on this planet. And now they realize why no one has ever come back from this planet to tell anyone else about it. It is literally being protected by something that's so sacred that they can't really figure it out. Teldin suspects that the Juna, which are supposedly the creatures that, created the Spelljammer originally and created the cloak and many other helm controlling devices in order to control the Spelljammer, were from this place, or they came here at one point, but they don't really know. Anyway, so Teldin narrowly steers the ship down to the meadow on the planet Nexus surface, but the ship is destroyed and cannot fly. Then they note that the world around them is strange, and not just strange, but completely alien in every sense of the word. Even the grass itself isn't like regular grass that just sort of sticks up. The grass is like many trees with like multiple little leaves coming off of the end of the little original blade stalk. So everything about this planet is sort of paired in threes, which also goes back to the pattern that's etched on the cloak that was supposed to be referenced by the Juna, which is this three-pointed leaf or flower or something like that. So he feels like he's in the right spot. Anyway, they're here. They're crashed. They can't go anywhere else. So he begins to explore, and they come across a sentient species with 6 limbs and 3 eyes. Now, the 6 limbs are 3 legs and 3 arms. One on each side of this sort of gooey, triangular-shaped body. And this is the most alien species that we've encountered thus far. And I just love that they included this really creepy, weird, sort of War of the Worlds type tri-creature. They call them trilaterals. And this is a primitive species that can only communicate roughly with Teldin through his cloak. And they don't really communicate in this higher language like I am attempting to communicate with you right now, but they use a lot of emotions and sort of singular broken words. So it's as if you only had a 4th grade understanding of a language. You know what I mean? He follows them to their wise one, who tells them that a species came to their planet, gave the sentience to the world, which now takes care of them. So in essence, it's probably, according to Teldin, the Juna came down to their planet and gave life literally to the world. And now the world cares for other things that it considers sentient on its surface, including these trilaterals. And so the world controls the suns that go around it in order to heat the planet to keep it a good temperature for these sentient creatures. It provides food to the sentient creatures when it thinks they need food. If they ask something of the world, it provides it for them in some way. And so it's literally stopping this species from evolving, because evolution is through chaos and strife. That's why evolution happens. People adapt to their environment or they die off. And you get sort of spin-off species that then either were genetically predisposed to adapt to the current environment or not. But it's not an intelligent design. It's random chaos, as evolution is. But this species never had to go through that, because the planet is just totally taking care of every one of their needs. So they've just stayed this rudimentary, primitive species. I just love the idea from a sci-fi level. It's this wonderful idea of, the idea of a sentient planet is nothing new, but the way that they breach the topic in this story and the way they compare and contrast it to the other sentient life on the planet, I thought was really fascinating and really, really interesting. So anyway, that's why the sun was trying to attack them. That's why the blast from the planet was trying to take down the Boundless, because the planet thought that they were dangerous because they were outsiders and was trying to protect the people on the surface. So Teldin asked these trilaterals to help him repair his ship, and they agree, but once they do it, they insist that they have to leave. And so the planet literally puts back together their ship for them. It was really, really cool. So outside, once they get out of the planet, they get out of the atmosphere, they get away from the stinking suns, they realize that they don't have any leads. This was their one lead that they had. That's why they hired the people. They thought they were going to find the Juna here, which would then give them more information about the Spelljammer and tell them where to go next. But they have nothing. Teldin's reminded that he has that medallion that he got like 2 novels back, which merges his consciousness with the actual Spelljammer itself. So he uses it, and he discovers that in the crystal sphere of Vista space, moving through this fire giant planet called Garish, the Spelljammer is coming right out of it. And he also sees like a bunch of other like crazy ships within this fire realm. But the problem is that it's approximately 2 months away from them in traveling. So by the time they get to that sphere, the Spelljammer is probably not going to be there anymore. But because they have no other leads, they decide to go anyway. So knowing the Spelljammer will probably be gone by the time they get there, they travel there anyway, because they have no other leads. On the way that they're traveling here, I can't help as a reader thinking, what about the Saboteur from the beginning of the novel? They've been like flying through space for weeks to get to the next planet, and the next crystal sphere is the same name for both. Nothing has happened. No one has said anything. No one's investigated anything. And now they're going to travel 2 months to another crystal sphere, and everyone's just like, meh, who cares? There's a Saboteur on board. Let's just let them have a good time. It's crazy. It's insane. You're traveling for months with someone who's trying to help others capture and kill you, and you're not going to investigate? Anyway, it bothered me. So then, suddenly, one of the helmsmen comes up dead. So the Saboteur is still at work and is turned to murder. So they are unable to determine who it was by the time that they arrive. They end up getting close to the planet's surface to see metallic ships exiting the fire planet. And it's described as these sort of triangles with mirror-like surfaces. The ship itself begins communicating with Teldin telepathically. So this is living metal, which is another fascinating idea. That it's the first time we're introduced to this sort of concept with Spelljammer, which is just amazing to me. And it can't understand when Teldin is saying, I'm an individual, I am not the ship that you're looking at. And the metal ship is like, well, that doesn't make any sense. You're clearly having an infestation of rodents crawling all over you. You're clearly the ship that I'm talking to, because all it knows is that it talks to other ships of its own kind, and they talk back, and it's never met any other types of ships. It alludes to the fact that once Teldin finally tells it, no, all of those things crawling on side of what you think is me talking to you, we're all individuals. And all of us individuals have sentience. We are all intelligent life. And it's like, oh shit. Ooh, we might have done a bad thing by eliminating all those infestations on other ships. So it just leads you to believe that many other ships have come by here, amazed at this sentient metal ship, and they just killed everyone, thinking that they were helping the ship itself, which is kind of funny. Anyway, it turns out that they know of the Spelljammer, and they tell Teldin where the Spelljammer went, to the Broken Sphere. And Teldin's like, well, do you know where the Broken Sphere is? And they're like, yeah. He's like, could you tell me? They're like, yeah, it's right here. So he describes how to find the Spelljammer. And he says that the Spelljammer returns periodically, but it would require him to track magnetic fields in the phlogiston, something that mortals can't do. Now, if they had technology like we have today, then you could use that technology to then visibly see the magnetic fields and then follow them. But he doesn't have anything like that. As far as he knows, no mortals do. And so he's like, I'm so close. I'm like right there. I know how to find it, but I can't see the path in order to find it. Completely screwed. Suddenly, Dargath, one of the shipmates, approaches Teldin to report that someone was tampering with the catapult and that he was working with Julia earlier. Teldin goes to ask Julia if she saw anyone messing with the catapult because of what Dargath said, and she says that she wasn't actually helping him. She denies that she was even involved in touching the catapult. And then another crewmate who overheard that conversation, a little halfling called Lucinus, comes up to Teldin and says, look, I don't know why she said she wasn't messing with it, but she was. I saw with my own eyes. So all those doubts at the very beginning of the novel that Teldin had about Julia now come flooding back in his mind. He's like, oh shit. I shouldn't have believed her. Of course she was trying to find me. Of course she was after the spell, the cloak the whole time. Of course she's a saboteur. I'm an idiot. Why do I keep letting these women screw me over? I am such a moron. And he just punishes himself all night. So now Teldin is convinced that Julia is the saboteur. She mysteriously appeared where he was on that planet, and now mysterious stuff is happening. So 1 + 1 must equal 2 in his mind. He's been duped so much by women already that he feels ashamed for letting it happen again. That evening, he meets the beholder, Beth Abs, who begins to tell him that he saw 2 people talking about sabotaging the ship, and he's about to tell them who they were, but then he succumbs to poison. So he's like trying to get it out the whole time. He's like, hey, I need to talk to... I need to tell you that I saw some... There was 2 people that were talking about... You know, like, and then suddenly the poison just kicks in, kills poor old Beth Abs, and in his death throes, all of his eyes fire off in this weird, like, water weenie, like a hose that's been turned on, flipping all over, and all this mass rays of death and magic are like destroying the ship while this creature is dying. And Teldin can't get the names of the people that he was trying to tell him about out of his mouth before this damn thing dies, and he has to go run for cover because all these stinking eye rays are flying all over. This guy can't catch a break. So he's freaking out that Beth Abs died, but he knows that there's 2 saboteurs, not 1. So Julia's clearly working with someone, but it wasn't Beth Abs. So he goes to bed, and because what else would you do? But he goes to bed with a loaded crossbow, like a little hand crossbow underneath his bed, just in case. So anyway, he has this horrible nightmare, wakes up from the nightmare, and he hears someone sneaking into his room, like super quiet. And then he sees a glint of steel, like a sword is out. And so he's pretending like he's asleep, and he rolls over, has his hand fall down off his bunk, and he reaches slowly for the crossbow bolt. And the creeping gets closer and closer. He pulls out the crossbow, fires it point blank range right into the chest of this person, ends up being Julia with her sword out. And he runs over. He's like, damn you to hell. Why are you doing this to me? Why? And she clearly can't see. She's dying actively. She's like trying to focus on anything. She's like, is it still alive? Is it still alive, Teldin? He's like, is it? What are you Oh, shit. And then he hears something behind him, turns around. There's this metal magical spider that flies out at him like alien style. So he's trying to fight off this damn metal, like hand-sized alien thing. All the while in the back of his head, he's like, I just killed Julia. Holy shit, she had nothing to do with any of this. She was coming in to save my ass. Like, I'm the worst person on the goddamn planet. I loved her. She loved me. I'm so screwed. He's just in the worst place you could possibly be as a human being right now. He ends up finally defeating this little spider thing, running over to her, feeling for a pulse. She's like fluttering in and out of consciousness, you know, because death is literally knocking at her door. And she says, I heard 2 people, and so I came to save you. And they were... And she dies. So again, there's 2 saboteurs on board. He almost had it. He thought it was her, so he kills her. And it turns out she was trying to rescue him. I was devastated. Like, at this point in the novel, I lost my shit. Because he was losing his shit in the story. He was crying, screaming, raging, as one would be prone to do in that situation. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. He finally finds someone that loves him back, that really wants to be with him. And he fucking kills her because he's unsure of himself and her. And the situation that he's in. It was just devastating. Devastating. So, that's when Djan comes in. I think it's Djan. I can't remember. His first mate comes in saying that there's been another murder and that they found the saboteurs and there's the ship is on fire. So they go find out that it was, well, here, let me just read my damn review. Now he knows that Julia wasn't the saboteur and he killed her for no reason. The fact that he loves her destroys him to the point that the book was so tense that I couldn't put it down. And when Teldin realizes the truth, it just hit me incredibly hard. Furiously, Teldin hears screams and about the real saboteurs, how they're Dargeth and Lucinus, the two guys who told him that it was Julia. Of course. So they ended up lighting a signal fire in order to alert Grampian, who was the guy who hired the pirate to attack them out of the ship, in a nearby Nautilus ship in order to attack. As they'd killed all the helmsmen, they thought they killed all the helmsmen, the ship was ready to be, boarded and taken over by this guy, whoever this Grampian is. And the author actually kept the identity of Grampian away from even us, which I really appreciated. So as the Boundless's I jumped ahead. So the Nautilus attacks, ramming the Boundless, and then all their mercenaries sort of swarm on board and are attacking all of the Boundless's people. So all the Boundless's people are fighting and dying. Teldin ends up changing into Dargeth and goes over to the Nautilus, and we're asking to see the captain. The captain's unaware as Teldin creeps up and ends up capturing him, revealing him to be an arcane, one of those really tall blue creatures. This particular arcane's name is Tika Res, who's the brother of Tika Peck from the second novel that Teldin and Estrus ended up killing. His name is Tika Res, and he's trying to stop Teldin from getting the Spelljammer, not so that he can control the Spelljammer, but to ensure that the Arcane's monopoly on magical technology and helm generation, helm creation and selling, maintains their monopoly. It all comes down to business. All of the deaths that Teldin was the inadvertent cause of or direct reason of, all the people that he loved and cared for being murdered, and it was all just because a corporation didn't want God damn it. Sorry. Competition. That was it. It was just corporatism the whole time. And Teldin's sitting here trying to rationalize this. He's like, you killed so many people. You made me kill so many people. All because you didn't want economic competition? And he's almost losing his mind, almost ready to kill this arcane. Which I would have done. 100%. Corporations have built the Western world, and so we should be appreciative. But they're also the reason why we as a collective species are subdominant. The irony is that humans created corporations and corporations now rule humans. How messed up is that? But that's reality, and it's in this as well. All right, so Teldin eventually forces the Arcane and his crew to switch ships and give him the means of navigating to the Broken Sphere. They finally refuel after taking the Nautilus and renaming it Julia, appropriately. And then they head out to the Broken Sphere with a device that the Arcane had in order to see this magnetic trail, ostensibly. Once they arrive to the Broken Sphere, they see the fabled Spelljammer, just as it turns to face them and begins an attack run. And that's the end of the book. It just leaves on this great cliffhanger. This was an incredible novel. It had me hooked from page one and it wouldn't let me go. I finished it faster than all of the other novels because it's literally the second best in the entire series after the first novel. I feel like I truly understand Teldin Moore at this point, and I want to know what happens in this damn final novel and all these Spelljammer novels. If you like space fantasy, if you like murder mysteries, if you like Spelljammer or sci-fi, you will love this story, and I highly recommend it to everyone. Okay, let's see what you guys have to say here. Oh, Dungeons & Dragons trailer looked awesome. Yeah, I want to talk about that in a second. It goes well, Raykira. Thanks for doing live, man. Appreciate you. Best dabs. Yeah, I guess that's the name. Penultimate, thank you. Oh, that was killing me. Yeah, it is fun to say. I agree. I'm ashamed to say, but it's true. I first heard it when I was watching Game of Thrones, and the penultimate episode of the first season came out, and then they just referred to them all the same way in all the other seasons. I was like, oh, that's a fun way of saying second to last. Anyway, you never forget your first mate. Yeah. Hey, Albert Witch. Sorry, I need my glasses. It's a very small font size here. Thanks for joining live. I really appreciate you. Same with you, Rakira. So let's see. Boundless possibilities at your waist size. Nice. Beholder is going to come in handy. Yes, it is. Good guy. Beholder is the best Spelljammer weaponry. 100%. Beth Az was the best part, like the best character in this story. It goes from the cloak warning Teldin about him to him being almost the best friend of everyone on board, and then the sole protector of everyone on board, and then about to solve the mystery for everyone on board, and then murdered and almost kills everyone on board. Great story arc for a character. Let's see. One of the best features of the Beholder fleet was that in the boarding actions, they could completely disable enemy ships. Oh, I believe it. It's been like 20 years since you played a Spelljammer campaign. I don't know, man. After reading this novel, I want to play a Spelljammer campaign. It was so cool. You like the idea of playing a Spelljammer campaign where you could land on a planet with unknown rules, aliens, etc.? Yeah, it's very Star Trek. You know what I mean? But Spelljammer is much more like, it's like a mix between Star Trek and H.P. Lovecraft. You know? Just like weird, wacky creatures. Motives, let none survive. Motives. Reminds you of the first 2 episodes of Voyager. I haven't seen that. I was never a big Star Trek fan except for the original series. And even that, I never watched all of them. I was always Star Wars. See, what really grabbed you about the setting was just how different and unique all the traditional races were to the terrestrial counterparts. Yeah, that's another thing that I really like about this is that it's familiar enough that when you learn how different they really are, it makes perfect logical sense. You know, as soon as we as a species go spacebound, you have a completely different perspective. And then you have completely different needs that need to be met. You know, you're initially worried about oxygen, radiation exposure, food, travel, speed. You know what I mean? I mean, trying to find other places that you can actually exist in. Otherwise, you're trapped in this horrid container. One of the best sci-fi films I've ever seen, and I still think it is one of the best ever in existence. It's by Danny Boyle, and it's called Sunshine. I almost forgot the damn name. I own it. I've watched it a billion times. It is such a great sci-fi film, and it's supposed to be like it's presented as a horror, but it's not really a horror. It's just like a sci-fi murder mystery almost. It's so good, and Danny Boyle is such a spectacular creator. I highly recommend it to anyone. All right, so the Wacky Saboteur, yeah, Living Metal, great band name, nice. Broken Sphere. Oh, dang it, I missed it. Oh, yeah, Gov. Just make a little Sirius B and right at the nebula shaped like a bear. Oh, boy. Let's see. Saki-san, how you doing? Thanks for doing live. If you get the dust cloud that looks like a cat cleaning its butt, you've gone too far. It's true. That's way too far. Death by water weenie is the worst. Yeah. Did you guys ever play with water weenies as a kid? That's what we called them. I don't know. It was really just a length of like that stretchy tubing that would be like, I don't know, like I don't know what it was. It was just a stretchy rubber hose, basically. And you just hook one end up to the hose and tie the other end tight, and it would just inflate as if it were a balloon. And then you sort of pinch the end and you like spray people. It's like a water gun for broke people. Like I was like impoverished growing up. So water weenies were how we had water fights. It sounds kind of weird now that I say it out loud, but that's what it was. All right. So let's see, the best thing about Spelljammer, divine magic, no worky, so no raised dead. Yeah, and using any flame in the phlogiston kills everything because it'll all ignite immediately. See the new Dungeons and Dragons trailer? Yes, I'll talk about that in just a second. You haven't had a chance to watch it. Let's see. You're cautiously optimistic. It turns out they lied about landing on Lunitary to hide the fact that they knocked boots. Ha! Yeah. So you're on board with the new movie? Okay, let's see. What else? As a member of the Red Robes, can confirm that Lunitary is freaky and would have been happy to watch Sturm and Kit make some of their own draconians. What? Let's see. You can use your name here. Kurt. Oh, hey, Kurt. Thanks for joining live, Kurt. Okay, so you're sold. Your wife will have no problem with you jumping into another D&D works. You should definitely read this. And your wife would probably dig it too if she's a creative person. Enemy Mine is amazing. Last Starfighter is amazing. But Sunshine beats them all. 100%. God, Enemy Mine was so good. Just loved it so much. I own it still, like in digital. It's such a great film. Everyone should watch that film. And it was such a wonderful... all sci-fi has always talked about the human condition. You know, how on this planet we're an insane species that hates other people simply because they're different. We're a very tribal species. It was necessary in our early evolution, but now it's a trait that's just meaningless. And so, more or less meaningless anyway, especially in the context of our own species. You know, we refer to ourselves as different races, which we're not. We're the same race, the human race. We're different ethnicities, but that's just a regional thing that has nothing to do with whether or not you're a good or bad person or anything. We invent these insane religions as excuses to go around murdering each other, pretending like it's about love, which we have eyes. We can clearly see it's not about love. It's about hate and destruction and murder. We pretend like we care about our own people, and then we shame each other because we may have a different sexual preference or gender identity. We don't even deserve to exist as a species as far as I'm concerned. We are the worst as a human species. The worst. But then that's what sci-fi is all about. It's about overcoming those very human traits of ours that divide us. It's about looking outside of ourselves and realizing that we could probably accomplish a lot more wonderful things if we just stopped being such assholes to each other. You know, you don't have to love everyone. You don't have to hold hands and bounce around. But how about just stop hating people for no reason? Hate them for good reasons, not bad ones. Good reasons being they do something personal to upset you. Bad reasons be because you just don't happen to like the cut of their jib. You know? So stupid. But sci-fi is so great about that. You know, Enemy Mine specifically was about these two races, humans and Drac, I think it was. There's another name maybe. Anyway, the Drac has, it's a, I can't remember what you call that when men or women can have baby. It's just like the need arises and so they have a baby. And so the Drac ends up dying in childbirth and the human has to take care of the Drac child. And then other humans come to mine the planet and he has to save the Drac child from his own race because they are as bigoted and racist as he was when he first met this other Drac survivor. It's a beautiful story about racism and overcoming racism and bigotry and hate. And it's 100% worth a watch. And it holds up. Not hermaphrodite, Marco. Anyway, it was a great, great story. Let's see. There's a great Spelljammer D&D podcast called Rolling with Difficulty. Oh, that's cool. Oh, see, I don't know. Event Horizon was like, I got a special place in my heart for Event Horizon. If, in Event Horizon, if we got more of the visual of when hell overtook the original Event Horizon and made them like eat each other and like screw each other to death and do all that horrible, horrible stuff that killed the original crew. Because they did shoot a whole bunch more for that, but it was lost. So if that was all included originally and they kept it in, then yeah, that would be much better than Sunshine. But they didn't. So sorry, Sunshine gets edges out because it didn't have enough depravity. Oh boy. All right, let's see. Any mind the two soldiers bond over how their religions have the same message. That is true, ironically, in my diatribe. That's what they bonded over. So yeah, I'm a pretty big hypocrite, but that's okay. I'm human. All right, that's it. Let's talk really quickly before I turn this off about the D&D. I was going to do a reaction video to the D&D trailer, the film trailer, Honor Among Thieves. I didn't do it because this is not a D&D channel. This is a Dragonlance channel, and I didn't really want to spend a whole bunch of time talking about something that wasn't directly. It's indirectly related, but it's not directly, and it's even set in Forgotten Realms, so I really didn't want to do it then. But having watched the past D&D live action films and they all suck. 100% just piles of garbage. This looks good. It looks like they tried to do like a little bit like a dash of Guardians of the Galaxy, which is a good thing. And it made me think that maybe it's going to be a good Dungeons and Dragons film. Like maybe it's possible. Do we dare hope to dream that we could actually have a good Dungeons and Dragons film? When you have an endless supply of superhero films that are great, and you can't get one good D&D film, not one, I think this is it. I think this might be the one. It looked so good. I love that they used Led Zeppelin in it. That seems to be like the go-to soundtrack, though. You know, just throwing some Zeppelin, and it's a great trailer. So it still may suck. I'm holding out that it's going to be good. I was stoked. It just felt fun. It didn't take itself too seriously like the other Dungeons and Dragons films did. It knew what it was supposed to be. It knew what it wanted to be. You know, it was like, we are going to be a lighthearted Dungeons and Dragons adventure, because I've never had a D&D session that was just all business. You know, we were always cracking jokes, busting balls, having fun, doing, you know, breaking the fourth wall with references and comments. That's what this looked like it's going to do. That feels like real D&D to me. And that looks like it's going to be a good time. So I'm down for it. Why can't they just get one good consultant to make a D&D great movie? Because they consult Dungeons and Dragons employees. And I'm going to be honest with you. It's proven by that TSR book that's coming out, or that was released a couple days ago. Anyone who owns Dungeons and Dragons, they want to make a profit. It's owned by Hasbro. They want to turn a profit. And so they think that the audience wants this serious Dungeons and Dragons adventure that's going to just be, you know, right out of the books. And so they hire consultants that are writers and developers of the game materials. And that's the worst thing you could ever do, as proven in the past films. For some reason, this time, they actually gave them good advice when they asked the D&D employees. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just our generation has shifted enough that we collectively want more humor in everything. I don't know what it is, but they got the traits down, and they got it good this time. It's all about controlling other people. Oh, that was their mistake. That's my interpretation. I don't know if it's true, but you know, like back in the TSR days, in the early WotC days, 3rd edition D&D was the worst version of Dungeons and Dragons. In my opinion, worse than 4th edition. And it's because they were constantly trying to meet some sort of technical dice, power gaming need that for the most people playing the game didn't want. And so, you know, 2nd edition was great because it was an iteration of 1st edition, which was just, let's play a fun fantasy game. You know, 2nd edition refined it a little bit. 3rd edition went way too technical. And though it was popular, it sunk. And they did 4th, which they thought, you know, everyone's playing video games now, so let's make a video game version of the game. And it ended up tanking because people would just rather play video games. 5th edition, they sort of went back to the drawing board, and they found a way to sort of try to meld that original edition, simplify the mechanics, make it more accessible, appeal to a wider audience, which is why I don't particularly like it. And, you know, the choice is because of that. But that also meant that it opened it up to more popular culture, more humor, more entertainment. And I think that's why we have an opportunity of good films now. But again, I could be talking out my ass like all of my other diatribes. I reserve the right to talk out my ass. That's what I do. All right. Just hire Vin Diesel. I don't know, man. I think he's way overrated, personally. I've never met someone who played D&D or claimed to have played D&D where I was like, I want you to manage a property. No way. No way. You really wish that you had all gotten the version of 5e we got sent for the playtest back in the day. Oh, I didn't even know about the playtest, so yeah. Life was so hard around that time. You started playing and reading the novels. It's a beautiful collection of worlds, heroes, villains. You hope the movie helps more folks on their way to it. I agree. I mean, the bottom line for me is whatever edition you like it. You know, it's all about you. It's not about me. It's about you. I'm going to like what I like. You like what you like. And if they meet, awesome. If they don't, awesome. It doesn't matter. Just do your thing. But when it comes to films, you do have to, if you want it to be successful, and the point of making films, we got to be clear about this, is not to stay true to a story. It's not to feed fans. It's to make money. If through the process of making money, you can then feed fans and be true to whatever, all the better, you know, then knock everything else off your bucket list. But it's corporations that make movies, and corporations are there to turn a profit, full stop. That's it. That's why we don't in America have free healthcare for everyone. That's why we subsidize as citizens oil companies that actually lease land that they do not drill in, but the places they do drill, they sell that oil overseas. And we have nothing to say for it because corporations rule everything, even our entertainment, even our media. You think you love D&D, you think you love, you run it. But the truth is a corporation runs it, Hasbro, they want to turn a profit. So they're doing all the decisions they make in 5th edition is not to be nice to other people and bring other people in. It's to make money by bringing other people in, That's why they have all those cutesy little characters that you can play and all these weird world books that no one ever asked for and like only a tiny little handful of people ever actually play or buy, or they just want money. That's it. So, stepping off my soapbox, let's end this feed. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. This is I'm struggling today. It was a hell of a week. That is it for my review of The Broken Sphere by Nigel Findley. What did you think of this anthology? I didn't even double check my notes. That's the worst part. What did you think of this pentultimate novel in the Cloakmaster Cycle of the Spelljammer novels? Do you have a favorite novel in this series? You can always email me at info@dlsaga.com or leave a comment below. I would like to take a moment to thank the members of this channel and invite you to, if you're not a member, if you're not a subscriber, to subscribe on YouTube. You can always ring the bell to get notified about upcoming videos and click the like button. All this goes to help other Dragonlance fans learn about this channel and its content. This channel is all about celebrating the wonderful world of the Dragonlance Saga and apparently talking out of my ass about other things. I hope you will enjoy. All right, screw it. Have a great one. Take care, everyone. Slanjavar. Oy, what a day. Brothers, sisters, countrymen, lend me your thumbs.